that was Paul's idea, but because he was so fed up of giving all this stuff for years and never getting paid for it or the credit, he sent it in to the producer of the show under an alias.
Oh, brilliant!
The producer came into rehearsals one week and went, "Oh, God, guys, this is great." Or it was before we'd started recording, you know, meetings. I've got this, blah, 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 blah. Went ahead, it was all built. And then in the rehearsal room the week before the studio, Paul said, "Oh, by the way, have you invited this guy, you know, to the studio this week?" And you know, the producer went, "Oh, no, I never really thought about that." And Paul said, obviously knowing he hasn't, "And have you done a deal with him? You know, has he given us permission? Are you paying him?" And the producer got all flustered. Anyway, it all got sorted out. The producer, as far as I know, to this day, doesn't know.
We used to sit on Saturday night and watch magic tricks.
Used to get 15 million viewers at its peak as well. And one I remember is when he put a TV camera inside a shed, a big box,
in a box,
and he made it disappear. Listen.
The screen is now showing in the corner at all times the view from the camera inside, and we reverse it up so now the people can see all the way around it who are here in the studio. I promised you a camera trick. This is a trick with a camera. 3, 2, 1.
And it was gone. The live feed to the TV in the studio, it disappeared and it was gone. But that was only one of loads. He used to make everything disappear. Elephants, cars, everything.
I remember as a kid sitting there with my mouth open just going,
How did he do that? Well, listen, it's no secret that Paul was a massive hero of mine. I was in the Paul Daniels fan club when you used to get a badge and a poster. And joining us now to talk about memories of the Paul Daniels Magic Show, who else? It is the one and only Debbie McGee.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Debs. How you doing?
I'm doing really well. It's funny you should pick that particular trick. Well, two things. You know, playing the theme music. Still my heart pounds because that used to be played, you know, we had a live audience in the studio. We didn't kind of do retake after retake. You know, Paul was known as One Take Daniels. But we get much rehearsal. So as soon as that music was playing, my heart used to thud, thinking, "Oh my God, you know, I hope I remember all of this and it all goes okay."
So they were live shows in essence.
Oh, they totally were. Yeah. I think, you know, once or twice we'd do a retake, but that was because a camera got on, you know, we had 7 cameras in the studio. So it would be the choreographer of the cameras, somebody went over a cable, something like that, or they didn't get the shot. Very rarely, or hardly ever, I don't think, maybe once, it was because of something to do with us. But that vanishing camera trick, there is quite a story behind it. If you've got,
go on.
So on the magic shows, Paul came up with a lot of the ideas. Okay, but the way the programs worked in those days, they wouldn't give Paul the credit for the ideas.
Right.
It was on the, you know, the title role was he's presenting it. All his team, who were, you know, people that would be in the director's box, making sure they weren't doing editing at the wrong point. So it's a camera trick because we never did camera tricks.
Of course.
Researcher, Barry Murray, Gil Leaney, who'd worked with all the great magicians of the past, who had amazing knowledge of all the methods and things like that. And Ali Bongo, who we all know.
Of course.
Yes.
Great at putting little tricks together. You know, he'd stay up all night making a trick, so we had it in the studio the next day. So where this camera, the vanishing camera, that was Paul's idea. But because he was so fed up of giving all this stuff for years and never getting paid for it or the credit, he sent it in to the producer of the show under an alias.
Oh, brilliant!
The producer came into rehearsals one week and went, "Oh, God, guys, this is great." Or it was before we'd started recording, you know, meetings. I've got this, blah, 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 blah. Went ahead, it was all built. And then in the rehearsal room the week before the studio, Paul said, "Oh, by the way, have you invited this guy, you know, to the studio this week?" And you know, the producer went, "Oh, no, I never really thought about that." And Paul said, obviously knowing he hasn't, "And have you done a deal with him? You know, has he given us permission? Are you paying him?" And the producer got all flustered. Anyway, it all got sorted out. The producer, as far as I know, to this day, doesn't know it came from Paul.
Oh, brilliant. What a story.
Then, a couple of years after we did it, Copperfield phoned Paul and said, would you mind, will you sell me the rights to do and give me how it's done, obviously.
Oh, wow.
Do trick on one of my specials or in one of my shows. And Paul said, yes, you can have it, but the producer doesn't know it was my idea, so you mustn't tell anybody, and just make a donation to one of my charities.
Yeah.
The day did it in America and made a donation to Paul's charity. So yeah, that's
brilliant. Love that memory. And 50 million viewers pretty much or more every Saturday, Debbie. What was the secret to the show, do you think? What was the secret to its success?
What Paul had. He loved what he did. He was never nervous, even on the TV shows. He hardly had any rehearsal for any of that. He winged his way through it, no script. He was lucky if he saw the prop the day before.
Wow.
I did some illusions where we got the prop on the day we recorded the show, not even the Friday when we were in studio, on the Saturday recording the show that night. And I kind of learnt it in the lunch break, did it on the dress run and did it on. And sometimes people said, oh, do you remember how you did that? I said, no, because each week we had to switch off to learn the next week's show.
Well, there was a lot of content because TV, as you know, eats material, doesn't it? Because before the TV magic shows, you would just have one act that you performed around the world. It'd just be the same 5 or 6 tricks. But you used to have to generate so much content. But which trick for you stands out amongst all the other ones that you did on the Paul Daniels Magic Show?
I mean, the one I loved performing, well, I loved all the musical numbers because that was my, and as soon as music plays, my body changes. So I loved
Strictly.
Absolutely, I suddenly was able to, I hadn't danced since I was, in my early 20s till I did Strictly in my late 50s, because everybody knows my age now. But so the one I loved doing the most was we did We're a Couple of Swells, which is 2 tramps. It's the Songs from Easter Parade, the musical with Fred Rogers. Yeah. And then she produced all this food and we sang it and did it. And we recorded it a couple of times for different shows that we did along the years. And that in my one-woman show, I showed the clip of that, so just a little bit of it, just before the interval.
I think I remember that one as a kid, yeah.
I do.
Used to watch it every week.
Yeah, we had a blacked out, I've still got the costumes, we had a blacked out tooth, and black, wigs like we were tramps.
Brilliant.
So, but...
it really was. For me, it was everything. Your show on stage, on TV, it brings back so many memories. Debbie, thanks so much for coming on the show, for joining us. Really appreciate it. And we'll be having another Memory Unlocked next week here on Virgin Radio.